Hi, folks, and welcome to Film Optimists, where we talk about all things film with a healthy dose of optimism. I am your co-host, Seth Boyd.
I am Megan Tierney.
And it is still Thanksgiving season here in the United States. We did our, to us, fun dark family movie last episode. So thank you for bearing through that. But if you wanted something a little bit more lighthearted, something that is going to be more fun and food focused, because as we discussed, Thanksgiving comes down to family food. We're doing the food movie today, folks. We're doing the Japanese film Tampopo from check. I think it's the late 80s.
I believe 85. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Thank you. 85. You
85.
nailed it.
Oh,
Let the record show Megan's film knowledge outdoing me once again. We're doing the film Tampopo from 1985, which is quick synopsis. We'll get a little bit more into it in a little bit. It was published just as the first ramen Western, and this is a movie
that's a great way to describe it.
Right? there's a lot of genre been in here, but this is essentially about a couple of truckers decide to help a widow who has kind of inherited the ramen shop from her husband. She's a single mother as well, and she's not particularly good at it. And these two truckers just decide to help her turn this into a top-notch establishment. And there's a lot of other fun vignettes in here, but that is more or less what this movie's about. Before we dive into that, though, we do have some business we need to address. This is also not just Thanksgiving, but it's the 1-year anniversary, roughly, of us doing this.
True.
So
our schedule cadence in mind, roughly 1 year.
I don't think it's we got the same day, but yeah.
Right. We got the notification from Anchor, whom we love, our only podcast platform. Yeah. They gave us our little 1-year anniversary in order.
We're thinking Anchor first.
well,
I was going to thank you, Megan, but you're right.
I was going to thank you too. No, I first have to say thanks, Seth. Like, of course, my co-host in all of this. I did actually want to thank Anchor for being such an easy platform to do this on, and we really threw caution to the wind, I feel like, in starting this. But I think that for me, our whole goal was I like talking about film. I like talking about film with you as my dear friend, and I feel like a lot of people would resonate with that. And so another thank you also goes for me to the listeners. Of course, if anybody has resonated with that as well, that's literally I think me and Seth's goal. I don't want to speak for Seth, but that's a part of it. And then I also got me thinking in our 1-year anniversary of all the incredible guests that we've had. Talking about film with these people has just been so fun. I just love it. So thank you to everybody that is kind of a part of this. And we've had quite a few amazing guests. So please, if people are interested in that, go back to listen to them. But thank you to audience too, of course. This is our joy. This is one of my joys, and one of my joys with Seth to do this. So thank yous all around. That was my little speech.
well, thank you so much, Megan. And I fully agreed. Of course, thank you for doing this, me going on this strange adventure. And Megan does the labor here. Megan is doing the actual editing, and it's making me sound coherent. So I'm very grateful for that. But I'm so grateful just to have this opportunity to continue talking about film with you, what we bonded over in college. And of course, thank you to the listeners. We are very grateful for you. Thank you for anyone who's recommending us, getting your friends and family to listen. And I just want to give a special thank you to anyone who's reached out to us with comments. That's very meaningful. A few people have told me, I'm going to check out that movie because of the podcast. And we love to hear that, because I know we're not talking about the major box office top 100 here. We are talking about Stranger Things. And so we really appreciate knowing that it's kind of having the impact of getting people to watch the movie. So
totally. So, not a Stranger Things podcast. But, but
I did realize, as I said, that's probably what it sounds like. We'd be having much more success if we did that.
No, I don't think so. Film podcasts have also been a part of my life, just other ones as well. So not to put us us there at all, but what Seth and I do is my favorite way to talk about film. And like you said, it's a part of our friendship, and I'm just so happy to have the platform to do it.
We would be doing this anyways. We just schedule it more often.
Yes.
Very cool. Well, yes, thank you all around. And of course, thank you to Anchor. We appreciate making it so easy to do. So now that that's out of the way, Megan, what were your first thoughts upon seeing this movie?
Well, it's quite of course, not a traditional like Thanksgiving movie here. We don't need that in our lives. And I was so happy to have it's interesting that it is a specifically like it's kind of like food is the other character in this. It really is like it takes total precedent. And certainly some Westerns have done that before, but like I hadn't seen it done like this. But it also accomplishes a lot. Like it's quite a competent movie. Not that I wasn't like expecting anything else, or I think that sometimes food-y films can get a little either like maybe pretentious or even a little artsy in that way, and minimal, something like that. But this is quite a like cinematic food movie. So those are my first impressions of it. I, of course, true film optimist fashion, had nothing, like no idea going into it what it was, but yeah, perfect.
Well, this is a rather strange one, and yes, absolutely. This was not. I have to again give thanks for things due. The podcast, The Flop House, which is 3 professionals who review bad movies, and Elliot Kanan, one of the people in that podcast, recommended Tampopo maybe 2 or 3 years ago. It was a while ago, and remember the description really stood out to me, and I've watched it, and it quickly became one of Anna's favorite movies. So I would not have heard of this movie if it wasn't for a film podcast. Not one that they really go over in school. This wasn't in any of my textbooks. The director is Juzo Itami, who had a pretty long career as an actor as well, actually, and directed about 12 movies, I believe. But this was, I'm glad you said cinematic, because I think we talked about this maybe in our Ferris Bueller episode about like a lot of comedies, because this movie is mostly really a comedy. There's some strange, there's some sad moments in it, but it is a comedy about people helping a shop, and this is a movie that, like our favorite comedies, Megan, really utilize all elements of film. Like sound is very intentional. There's a lot of film rules being utilized and broken. There's a lot of film aspects that's not just a sketch being recorded. It's not just point the camera at the actors, they say their jokes, and that's the funny part. We actually begin rather strangely with breaking the fourth wall. A gangster is entering the movie theater. We're about to watch Tampopo, and addresses the audience like, "Oh, you're here to see this too." So I love that it starts on that note with this decadent. This guy is with his beautiful girlfriend in his white suit, and has his crew is bringing champagne and other assorted delicacies to watch this movie. For the treatment, right? I really agree with what you said about and we don't need to name specific ones, although I'll mention Pig, because we watched Pig for this podcast already. That's a food movie that can kind of border on the pretentious when it's talking about food. And this movie doesn't really do that. And part of that is ramen is kind of still street food, I think. It's street food that takes like all fucking day to make.
True. Well, and that's the difference too. Sorry to cut you off there, but it's like, I think that traditionally maybe we see more high food movies, and then I hadn't seen a lot of like, well, this is just like our everyday, I wonder if it would be considered fast food actually, but just like common food.
I think it like traditionally it was, and like I'm by no means an expert in Japanese history. My understanding is it became a pretty common street food after World War II.
Okay, yeah.
Probably, if my understanding is correctly, the Yakuza used to run all the ramen. but yeah, so this is kind of anime that comes, we're watching this, be the equivalent of burger shop, of like people trying to make it be the best burger in town, which is, I think also, I love that. I have strong opinions about the best burgers in Oakland. I'm forming my opinions of the best burgers in Milwaukee. But it is this, like, this is people who are still care intensely about their food and take it very seriously. But it is funny that we start with this pretentious character who has his champagne and he's eating caviar throughout the movie. There are a lot of characters who are really leaning hard into high cuisine, and there's multiple scenes that focus on that, but it is also street food at the end of the day.
Exactly. Well, and actually, I'm glad you mentioned Ferris Bueller. It kind of, I thought of it too because of, I also thought that it was a very whimsical movie, like overall, and it's an odd tone because it is very adult. There are some like very hardcore scenes actually, in all like ranges and aspects of what that means. You know, we'll get into that probably, but also it's that it has truly like a childlike whimsy to some of it, and or it's very sweet. There's a sweetness to it as well, and just stuff like that. Like and it's a through line throughout. Like that tone is kind of the same throughout, but it's a bunch of different vignettes of different scenes, that so it really does quite a bit.
Yeah, and I think because the base plot is so simple, we can talk about specific scenes here because like there are a lot of vignettes where like the camera will just kind of follow somebody, like somebody else will enter the frame and they're just hanging out that person for a while. And some of these scenes are straight up slapstick. Like there is just an old woman who's going into a grocery store just to fuck shit up, just to like go to the bread and kind of smash it, go to a wheel of brie and just smash it and hide it, act like she didn't do it. And it's Keystone Cop stuff of her chasing, being chased by the store employee. Like there's no dialogue in this scene, so there's silent film stuff. But one of the sadder ones is there's a man who's running home. We don't know he's running home, or just think this is some crazy person running, and he runs to his house and his wife is dying. All the kids are around there, and he's tries to just wishful thinking. He's like, no, you're fine. Just get up and make dinner. And miraculously, she stands up, she makes dinner, and then she dies. She drops dead right after this. And it's a very strange, funny, because this like what the hell just happened, but sweet and sad scene. I think that scene is kind of like maybe the pinnacle of how far the pendulum can swing in this movie in the same scene, right? Because like, and then after she's dead, he's screaming at it's like, keep eating, it's your mother's last meal she made for us. And it's a very strange
it's odd.
It's very strange. I enjoyed it though, and I think I've seen this maybe now 3 times, and so like I'm more kind of prepared emotionally. I was certainly confused and didn't know what's happening upon my first viewing, so I have that advantage over
it's interesting. It's like a umbrella effect almost. I think we've read probably stories like this, Seth, too, of like some kind of like overall theme, but then it's different. I guess the vignettes, like we said, of like, or different just scenes around it, and that's very much what it felt like. And I couldn't like place it in another movie like that, but because it's not like little like what are those things, like shorts or anything like that, or like a collection of stuff like that, but it is like a through line. It's just that the whole like thing is peppered with the idea of food too, so I hadn't seen that personally, like
it kind of like this is maybe a reach, like Canterbury Tales or Decameron or something. Going to go to literature where it's like people are talking about something. It's like, no, I've got a story about this.
Yes.
So even though like what we just like, we don't have that dialogue, we don't have that framing device, but we have like, here's a new thing that's related, because everything is related to food.
Yes. And a lot about ramen.
Ramen. I want to go back to the genre bending of this, because like that title, Ramen Western, they really lean into a lot of Western things with this, because while it is 2 guys coming to help, it's kind of framed more like 2 drifters are coming in to help the widow on the homestead, fight rival gangs, which are rival ramen shops. And everyone in this key cast is dressed kind of Western adjacent. Like our main 2
That's
guys
true. I didn't think
have like a kerchief, they have a cowboy hat, often they're always have a cigarette. And our protagonist, who Tampopo herself, who's the shop ends up being named after, is usually wearing some sort of prairie dress, so they're wearing clothes that feel like not completely anachronistic, but are like adjacent to these Western things. And like the score often feels very Western. You have like the training montages and stuff like that. So you have these very intentional things, and things that I didn't really expect upon the first viewing, of like, oh, there's like some John Ford camera references and stuff that I could see in an 80s Japanese comedy about ramen. So like I just had no idea that was an aspect of it, and it's more rewarding the more you see it.
Totally. The truck driver, the both of them are very entertaining to me to watch, but the main one with the cowboy hat, I'm blanking on his
Goro.
name. Goro, yes.
Forgive our Japanese punctuation. I am guessing
absolutely.
here. So
And
go ahead, sorry, Megan.
And thank you for saying that. So that's very important to say. But he was straight up like he was really fun to watch for me to watch. Like, I don't know, he was very gripping, like a Harrison Ford type. Like, he really reminded me of like Indiana Jones. Maybe it was the hat, but like very charming, and like his characterization was fun because it was so very like lone wolf drifter, hard around the edges, soft in the middle kind of thing. But it was, I don't know, it was just like so nicely categorized, and I found him very fun to watch.
Yes, I fully agree. He's a perfect like Western archetype. He's what you want that guy to be. And Harrison Ford's a great because he's more charming to me than say Clint Eastwood. But he's a very commanding presence. He's doesn't really raise his voice ever. He's like you can see this is a man of some sort of morals, but he's gonna throw down. He gets in, and there is the fight that he gets into, and that's another kind of fun thing of this is like often this movie is kind of like a Western, like a Magnificent Seven or something that's building the team because they get more and more people recruited to help the shop, and one guy's initially a drunk advertising person who ends up being the carpenter to do the remodel after. And I'm not going to fist fight can't settle like any good Western, and then they're buds. So a lot of Western logic like that.
And the way they kind of bring the whole town into it, and like at one point they speak to the like a population of unhoused people, and like, but at the time very like a little like cartoony, what probably would be considered like bums, like just a gaggle of bums basically, but but then they turn that on their head as well. It's not that they're like scary or anything like that. They help her and are these ramen aficionados themselves. So I feel like every person they come into, it's kind of like it's a little bit exaggerated, but also the exciting element of it is that they're kind of being very coy with who these characters are, and like who actually does help them. And I love stuff like that. Like I think it just helps like bring you along for the ride a lot, and I like turning things on its head, and I like to see it when it happens in movies and stuff like that.
I fully agree. I really loved that scene because, as Bruce discussed, I was homeless for a while, and something about like, I don't know what it is about Japanese movies that seem to understand that better, at least talk about it as a culture. But I love that scene because there's a lot of joy of like, there's a little bit of timidity at first from Tampopo and her son, who like, where are we going? It's like, we're gonna go find like the ramen master, the noodle cooking master, and he's among these people, and he's doing fine. And these people are very joyous. They're talking about these amazing leftovers they've gotten from restaurants. And it's like, well, if they changed the recipe at this 5-star place, that's why it was knocked out. But it's, why it's in the garbage can, but it's still pretty good. They're talking about scoring quarter bottles of Bordeaux that were left in the garbage, and they're so enthusiastic about food, and they're happy to go break into a kitchen and cook the kid a rice omelet. And I think that's one of the things that, like, and again, going back to silent movies, because that's another like silent movie scene is the homeless person with the kid breaking into cook an omelet and then run away from the security guard. There's a lot of like finding the joy that the people who are impoverished are having is really important. And I think that movie that sequence really illustrates that in a fun way that is like, this doesn't necessarily need to be the best representation of this as like humans, or no, back up. This doesn't need to be like the most full rounded. We need to talk about every aspect of being homeless. Like acknowledges their humanity by letting them have fun, by be joyous, and I really enjoy that. I appreciate seeing that, kind of like Tokyo Godfathers.
I was just gonna say, it reminded me of Tokyo. Well, and it reminded me of like their great a way to characterize just anybody, and that these people so happen to be like homeless or whatever the case may be. I feel like it's done very nicely, and even like in this one, I think that the town kind of has a characterization as well. Like I think that's probably done to expand that and just kind of show that a little bit more, because also the camera work, sometimes we get like, I don't know how we would call that, but like moving shots of the whole town, or like it'll go from one thing to another in a it has to be a like a helicopter shot. I don't know, like it's quite large, and so I think that's to show that everything's kind of connected in this centralized area, and that's really fun too. Like that helps a lot.
I agree. I really like the way they do that, because you have these pan outs and out, and then we're following someone else who's entered the frame and are
Yes.
and it's great. And and I think you're right, because that really does get this sense of interconnectionness and all these people being connected by food and by proximity.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking of the food.
Yes.
I think we need to talk about the food.
Yes, absolutely. So before where do you stand on ramen? Is ramen like,
so
yes, let's hear it.
Well, it's just that I haven't had ramen like since watching the movie, and that's a problem for me now. Like I think that's gonna have to end tonight, because ramen, especially, like something like I like it better than udon. Like specifically, I like it a little better than pho myself. Also, we're very lucky. Like I feel so lucky. We have a pretty phenomenal, fantastic ramen scene, I would say, in the Bay Area, and it's been a joyous like thing to be able to try different ones, different shops, and it's a big like joy in my life, basically. We have found like our go-to place now. Almost, it's very good. The menu is like, and it's like 10 minutes away. Menu is limited, small shop, so good. And I mean, just that's kind of my stance. I was wondering, have you found your ramen place in Milwaukee?
I have not found my Milwaukee ramen place. My Oakland place was Itani Ramen. Highly recommend it.
Itani, okay.
But there's a poke shop in my building that's downstairs that has pretty good poke, pretty good sushi, and pretty good ramen.
Okay.
They're not great, but it's there. Like I can get this in 10 minutes. And so that happens pretty often, and that still scratches an itch, especially with the as the colder months roll in, which they are. It's like 11 degrees today. So at one point, ramen is a necessity. Is a favorite food of mine for sure. So I will say, for me, a good amount of my joy in watching this movie, and I imagine yours, Megan, was just seeing ramen being made.
And the most like perfect looking ramen for me. I thought it was like that is like my ideal looking ramen almost. So I was just floored. I was really floored by that.
Because a good amount of this movie is figuring out what is perfect ramen and getting into details. And I like I'm not going to make this at home. I don't have the space. I don't have the time. But I really like this stuff too. Get into like, here's a secret, and that's one of the more fun scenes to me is the Tampopo, when she's been under training for a while, she figures out she's going to go up to a guy who has a really good broth, who's known for that. She's like pretending to be a customer. It's like, you must have used a different water this time. It's like, no, he's the same water. It's like, well, you must have added less salt or something. He just keeps going with questions until he inadvertently just gives her entire recipe. It's a very fun man being conned. We're happy to see him outwitted. It's a clever thing to do, because he's very proud of his recipe. There's a lot of what goes into the stock. What is the great portion of pork? Like, how thick should the slice be? And how do you know you're in a good ramen shop? Like, how do you walk in there and know, did they pay attention to you or what? And that stuff is fascinating to me.
And I agree. I was just gonna say, like, it's probably good. It was pretty like straightforward and good lessons too. Like about, I think I had heard some of the things too, especially about like noodle consistency and stuff like that. And so that made sense, and it felt very. It was, the whole thing was like kind of earnest, so earnest. So that's what really like got it. Feels good to me about the movie is, and Tampopo specifically is like so sweet, so earnest about like wanting this. She really is like wanting this ramen so bad, but she like really sells it to me of like just this deep need, I guess. So I liked talking about her performance. It was just, I loved that too.
I love these montages of training, like, okay, you should be able to like take an order and serve in X amount of minutes, and time stopwatch, like training for the Olympics or something. And but that was like kind of funny because it's a different context, but also like, that's true, you need to serve that fast.
That's true.
How did you like the relationship between Goro and Tampopo?
I liked it a lot. I had to watch the movie in like stints, so I were about three parts, and like it was almost like perfectly the movie's like cadence and their
You
like
nailed it.
relationship cadence. Yeah, so
Megan, you
like,
should
oh, we're
clearly
here
be a
now.
professional
Like,
editor because you have the pacing figured out in
oh,
instinctively.
it's not me, Seth. It's that's a sign of a good movie, I think, certainly.
Well,
Well, I don't, I always like to play with like timing and everything, but I think this is a
right.
very like act 1, 2, 3 kind
It
of
is actually,
deal.
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought it played out great, but again, I found him very, I guess just both of them, now that we've talked about Tampopo too, is just they're so likable, and like her earnestness plays really well with like his sternness, I guess.
Yeah.
So all of it, I don't know, it just fits really nicely, and even their juxtaposition like adds to the whimsy of it all, I feel like, and then it kind of like lands on its feet at the end as well, not to give like too much away, but you could probably
It's a
like
comedy,
infer.
you know.
It's a comedy.
It has a happy ending. Yeah.
Keeps it light. It keeps it very
Right.
light, and that's always really fun for me too.
Yeah. Were you disappointed, again, spoiler here, folks, that they don't end up together?
So I kind of liked it. I was I don't know. I kind of go back and forth of like sometimes that ending could really piss me off, or like, or I feel I'm like, no, like very
Right.
unsatisfied by it. And sometimes I'm happy about it. And I think this was an instance where for me it just kind of worked. I felt like it was more accurate to like the story as a whole.
Right.
And that this little ramen shop like now is what it is, but then people have to like go on and move, like live their lives kind of thing. So I don't know, it felt very like appropriate to me. I liked that aspect a lot.
Yeah, I agree, and I kind of liked he is the drifter drifting on, so there's that, but also yeah, like I thought they had a sweet, wholesome, never even quite flirtation, just like they were helping each other, and he was helping her, and she was grateful, and he was polite, he didn't cross a boundary, he didn't make it a sexual thing, and I kind of enjoyed that. That was kind of refreshing in the movie, especially as you alluded to. This movie is by no means Puritan. We have our our man in a white suit and his girlfriend, who I think is just, I'm looking at the cast here list here, it's just listed as man in white suit's mistress. We have multiple long food related sex scenes that are very graphic, and one might say inspiring, others might say depraved. Any thoughts on the egg scene, Megan? I think we'll just call it the egg scene for now.
Well, okay, so maybe TMI, I don't know, but like it's like I'm not really about food sex related things. I don't know. I don't like, well, one, I don't like stickiness, and like I don't like uncleanliness. So I just like can't, and I was not like turned on. In other words,
Fair
I
enough.
guess.
I'm kind of
Just to
was
say.
aroused in like a more removed clinical way. Like, I don't want to do it, but I get it. Yeah, I think that's fair. But I mean, again, because it is, I really love that, again, where we have this justification of ramen shop is really kind of food of the people, and then this guy who is lobster and caviar and blanking on another fancy boy thing.
I know.
I should have at least one more.
Lobster, caviar, oysters.
Let's go oysters. Scene. What's the duck thing?
Pate.
What I'm talking about? Yeah, well, there's pate, and the one that's like the duck fat from when you fill them up a lot.
Duck confit. I'm not sure myself.
It'll come to me. I'm gonna feel really stupid later, but anyways, fancy boy food is happening. So and this guy's not necessarily unfun to watch. He's kind of this very sensual person who's also just like buying an oyster straight from the beach and is eating it right there. And just having a eye contact moment with the young woman who sells him the oyster. So like I kind of enjoy this sensuality of this, and he never really interacts with the main cast at all, actually.
I was confused by that too. So like maybe you can clear it up for me, Seth, because are they they're the couple in the beginning, right? Like that
they are. They're the couple who's in the movie theater.
And then there's a tragic scene with them like towards the end. And so that was very a little bit not genre bending, but like does this happen, does this not kind of thing for me. That was the biggest kind of question mark I was left with. So I don't know. I was kind of confused by their characterization, in other words.
Yeah. They are this like kind of framing device where they keep coming in and out of the movie. But yeah, he's and his last sequence is he's shot in a maybe I'm wrong, but I think his long death scene of stumbling and being shot is supposed to emulate Breathless, the Godard movie. And then she's clutching him in his arms as he dies, and he talks about the best sausages he's ever had from this pig that's eating these acorns, and just you hunt it and you kill it and you eat it right there. And
or yams.
Still have the yams, that's what it was, yams. So yeah, so he's just like, his last words are talking about this great fucking dish he had that you have to eat on the scene.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that because that was again another moment that, like, in terms of mood, was, you know, unexpectedly violent and tragic, because, you know, they love each other, he's dying, and then funny because he's talking about food in his last breath, and that just kind of ties back into it. And so I enjoyed that sequence a lot. But I'll confess, while I really liked this movie in first viewing, I was certainly confused as what the fuck did I just see, because I can't really think of another movie that's like this. You know. And I can chalk that up to, like, there might be some just, like, you know, cultural differences, things where I maybe not fully understanding a reference, you know. But
I feel like
that was certainly a strange that was certainly a strange character to have, because, like, normally if you have a framing device character, you don't kill him, you know. If you have a chorus, you don't kill the chorus in a Greek play, right? So
true. Well, so even some, like, there is a little bit of misogyny going on. Well, you know, some more aggressive than others, even, that's happening in the movie. And I don't know if that's like a time thing, like if that's more that this came out in the 80s or whatever, but also it's
a couple
kind of
little lady type of comments. Yeah,
that's it. Right. And like the whimsy of it all, it's interesting because I feel like it doesn't detract from that, or I feel like the whimsical aspect of the movie is lends itself okay to, like, it being in there, but it's that's also, like, not my call, obviously. But I don't know, it doesn't feel off to me. It's just that it is kind of like, on first glance, it is disturbing almost at your visceral reaction to it, maybe. But then in the context of the whole movie, it just kind of like blends in there, and it gets a little washy. But that was just something that I noticed about it, and I just want to, like, pay more attention, even myself, as like a you know, looking at film differently and thinking about film for our day and age, and like how that makes me like feel, I guess, is just something I was thinking about.
Yeah, because I think and correct me if I'm wrong here, but, like, because I feel like the more bigoted characters kind of come around, but there's not really a dialogue about, like, there would be in a movie nowadays, right? Like, I think, like, there's like the guy who ends up, we talked about, who has the fist fight with Goro, is pretty drunk, and also comes out as kind of in love with Tampopo, and is kind of at it in a middle-aged drunk kind of way, just yelling at her, why don't you just sell me the restaurant, you can't possibly do this shit on your own. It's being very aggressive, and it's being threatening, and is being misogynist for sure. But then he ends up being like an ally, you know. So, and I don't know, again, going back to our Tokyo Godfathers episode, like, I'm kind of to some degree refreshed by a movie that we just kind of move on, rather than having that's an apology. But that's not necessarily better. It just feels a little bit more real to me. But yeah, that's not to justify it, you know, because, like, my interpretation was like, this guy's a dick, you know, until he's not. But that's a good thing to call it. This is also a movie from 1985. So
I do this. This isn't a you know, this is a part of every movie that like is from olden times, and so it's just like, it's something that I just, like, am interested in noting, because we've also talked about films that are, like, older than this, but it seems to have a different kind of, like, context going on. So it's always just interesting to me. I don't know, it may be a characterizational thing, a cultural thing too, which I meant to say. So it's just very interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, no, understood. Did any of these departures, these vignettes, particularly work for you, to stand out?
You mentioned some good ones, Seth.
Sorry, I didn't mean to take all the hits.
No, you took the greatest hits. I can't get my mind off the ramen, basically. It's very visceral.
Let's go with that, actually. What to you is the best ingredient in the ramen? Like what to you as a consumer are you most excited about when you're looking at this bowl of ramen?
Sure.
Like, what are you most excited to do?
Well, I'm the literal child, and like if it has plenty of noodles, that's all I care about basically.
Okay.
Everything else is fluff. Almost
Really?
everything, but it's so
Wow.
good. Like, I don't want to
Okay.
knock the toppings or anything.
Right.
But something also that I noticed in the movie is that I think I am actually pretty positive that all of it is literal food as well, as
Mm,
opposed to maybe like prop food, which we see more often nowadays. And that's not to knock prop masters. I think that's an incredible like art and
right.
skill and job of film. And sometimes you just like can't film food for whatever reason, or it's just like way less expensive, or there's just logistical reasons as to why you would use prop food, obviously.
Yeah.
But to see, I am pretty sure every single thing being real was so refreshing. It looked so incredible, like so tasty. And I don't think I had seen something with so much food that is very much like you can tell that it's real, basically. So
Yeah.
that was just like that kind of floored me a lot.
That's a great point. Yeah, that's a really good point because I think you're right. I imagine it was all real.
I
It
think
certainly
so.
looked fantastic. That or the
Yeah.
cinematographer is a god because everything
I know.
looked so real
I know.
and delicious. Yeah. I don't think any movies ever made me hungrier than this. Well, Megan, any other aspect of the movie you want to explore, or should we kind of go to closing thoughts and
Oh,
recommendations?
well, how did you feel about the makeover of the shop?
Oh, that's a good point. I feel like you have strong feelings, so let's hear it.
Well, not to, so we can say it, but like, so basically the shop, her little ramen shop gets a like an interior makeover, well, interior
Right.
and exterior makeover.
Right.
And it's a little dingy, like
Mm,
divey bar-ish
yeah.
scene before, very dark, and then it turns extremely like stark white is kind of the new color palette, if you
Yeah.
will. And it was nice, it was certainly nice, it was just very it was very jarring. So they, you
Yeah.
know, if they were doing that, that's an accomplishment. But it was very well, I almost thought it was a little bit westernized, and I think that they did
Mm,
kind of like tout a lot of like French cuisine from what I remember, or
right.
they were hyping that up quite a bit. And it skews a little like French cafe to me. Also, Tampopo is written in English in the new one. So I don't know, there was all these little like
Mm,
instances that were like kind of funny to me. Not that
that's a
they
good point.
were bad, and not that I disagreed with like the design style or anything like that, but it was just like interesting to see the stark whiteness of it. Looked great. The ramen looked incredible, of course.
Mhm.
But I was just like, wow, it
Yeah,
was
it
funny.
certainly is quite a departure by the end of it, and I think that is part of it. It's like you kind of expect it to still look like a nicer version of what it looked like, the kind of
I think
cozy
so.
little shop. So
Hmm.
it was very jarring. And this is really backtracking, but I finally remember the name of the fucking food I was thinking of, foie gras. So
Bagua. Mm.
thank you. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's my
Fancy boy food.
third fancy boy food. So
Good one.
for those of you who are on pins and needles waiting, thinking, wonder if I'd come up with it.
He
um,
did, folks.
he did. Very proud of myself. It's been a long
Hmm.
week. Yeah, no, I agree. That's a good point. I think that the westernization, particularly, that's an interesting thing about too. Like westernization doesn't
Hmm.
necessarily mean Americanization, because it is a lot of this is about French food, you know,
Yeah.
and Italian food. Like we have the back-to-back scenes of a bunch of businessmen going to a very fancy lunch, and
Yeah.
the assistant who is
Oh yeah.
stumbling and fucking up and is repeatedly getting kicked by his boss for just kind of being a doofus, who also looks like he's maybe 30 years younger than everybody else, ends up embarrassing the whole room of executives because it kind of is implied no one there can actually read the menu, which is in French. And so one
Hmm.
guy just says like, "Oh, I'll have the cod with a Heineken and the soup," and everyone else orders this exact same thing. And then this guy is really
Yes.
taking his time. He's like, "Oh, is this sausage roll kind of like this one from this famous establishment in Paris? Is it in this shape?" Is
Mm-hmm.
asking these very specific questions and is ordering a particular, I think, cognac or something, and it was just everyone is just red-faced, embarrassed that they got shown up by this upstart who read those. But I imagine he's fired after that, but also really enjoyed doing it. So you have this
Yes.
scene, and right after that is the etiquette lesson about how you eat Western noodles, and it's important that you do not slurp. And then everyone succumbs to the joy of slurping, because there's I think an Englishman doing that, and so you have a very long, strange, just some people maybe growing back on hilarious scene of just a room full of people that are just slurping down noodles, having a great time.
So that was really funny and really really comedic, and just really, what's that word? Like very physical comedy. I loved it. I don't know, and a very like parody feeling about it too. That was fun.
Right, and I think that scene, those two scenes together, are really perfect, because again goes back to like the disposition of like we're doing a food movie about ramen. More than anything, it's about like all good food is good food, but also like this thing that is pretty simple and cheap that anybody can just walk into a shop and order, like that is as good as whatever that guy just ordered at the French restaurant, and it does feel like there's this kind of anarchic taking down class thing throughout the movie, which I enjoy.
Well put.
Well, I think we've been talking about this one for a while, so I just one of my closing thoughts I want to say, like one thing I was thinking when coming up for our list of movies here is like, if you think a foreign film is something like Autumn Sonata, our last movie, I think it's going to be like very intense emotionally and very kind of intellectually challenging, which that movie is. And that's not entirely wrong to think about, but I just think that's not all it is. You can also have a very strange, lighthearted art house comedy that is a very fun watch, that's very approachable. And so, just keep that in mind. And both these movies are available through the Criterion Collection, your library, other sources. So just want to encourage our viewers to, I think it was John Bong Ho put it as, get over the 3-inch barrier, referring to subtitles. So try a different movie. It's not like Japan only makes one type of movie, Sweden only makes one type of movies. These are countries with a pretty established film. Try something new.
I love that said.
It's your closing thoughts.
I love what you said, and like we said, like it brought to mind like things like Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Just to have my own Western comparison, which it's so fun and refreshing to have. That's certainly not the like the eye of the storm in terms of films like that. So I loved seeing that, and this isn't like, I think people very sillily, or like you say, they could think of it like this isn't a Rashomon or something like that. Like it's very fun. It was so much fun. So that's I liked it for that aspect, and all of those aspects like speak to us as filmmakers, me as a filmmaker, and aspiring filmmaker. And that's just, I love I hate the word like universality, but it's like, it reminds me of that. It's like it translates so well, basically, and especially in like show not tell detail, which film is always going to be benefited by that, and this movie does that a lot. I feel like.
Why do you hit the word universality? Think it's overused, or
I'm so glad you asked that. So shout out to the concept of it blew me away. So like shout out to our little undergrad of St. Mary's College, because and I think in our English classes too, we talked about how, especially in English, like we read so much Western literature, and it tends to be that Western lit is considered universal, or that's touted as being universal, and that's just not the case at all. And it translates over in so many things that I've learned about in literature, and this film is a perfect example of that, almost like. And even like me holding it up to the lens of Ferris Bueller, like that's kind of like my bias coming into it, but it's like our Western culture doesn't start everything and is not the like end all be all of the universe. So it was just a really like interesting lesson that I will never. It's one of those things you can't unsee.
Right. That's a great point. I'm glad I asked. I'm glad you expanded, because I do think there's as Americans in particular, I think we are too quick to say everybody understands this. This is as good to everybody as it is to me.
Yeah. It's more about like overarching genres, or if you will, or like
Sure.
concepts, I guess, which that made a lot more sense to
Right.
me.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, great. So I think bottom line, folks, is check this one out. It is, again, it's on the Criterion channel. It's on, I think, HBO Max as well right now. So maybe a little more accessible to most folks. But as always, support your library. Their funding's based on how many people check things out. So check things out of the library. So Meg, we're going to do a different type of recommendation in a second. But first, I think we talked about this. Apologies, I'm turning tables on you, don't realize. For Thanksgiving this year, are you making anything? Do you have a thing you usually make? And follow-up question, do you have a thing you are most looking forward to eating?
Oh, great questions. Well, I am still a part of a family that basically assigns
that is
tasks.
its own sentence was really funny to me. If I'm still part of the family.
Well, sorry, not that period, but like a family that assigns tasks like for Thanksgiving. And it's like the Google Doc of like, I'm doing this, you're doing that. Not a literal Google Doc, but you get my drift. And I've been assigned Cheddar Bay biscuits from Red Lobster, where you can actually get the mix and like kind of DIY it a little bit. It's really, really good. Highly recommend. So I got the easy one. I'm a baker, like more than a chef, if I do say so myself. So I like the aspect of baked goods, anything like that. But in terms of like dishes, I'm a stuffing person a lot. I really like stuffing. My sister makes a great one. Real basic, like real simple. Love stuffing. I eat it like plain, like without the turkey.
I'm a big stuffing person as well, and I don't think I've ever been to a Thanksgiving where anybody gave a shit about the stuffing. I was the only person, and I've never made
that makes
it.
Me
so
sad.
I know, right? So it's always like it was there, and I'd usually be the only one eating it. It wasn't bad, but it was like no one had the same passion they put into that as they did like we often have mac and cheese as a regular part of our Thanksgiving. I think it's a more common thing that people realize. Maybe it's a West Coast thing, I don't know, but like I love having that as like a baked one. But like there's a lot of passion going to a lot of dishes. Obviously the turkey, the pies, I can make pies, but like I've never received stuffing made by somebody who's like, this is my thing. So I'm envious of you.
Yeah. Well, again, it was the task-oriented Thanksgiving stuffing that we were assigned to make, and thankfully my sister's like, she does a good job. So
any
she may try again.
things going in the Cheddar Bay biscuits? Any special additions?
The mix is like you add your own cheese to it basically, and they're really good. Like I think they like the butter bits are in there in the mix, so but I recommend sifting it. Like if you sift the batter or the like dry ingredient mix, it's so good, like really, really fluffy. So I can't wait.
Very nice. So I am not cooking this year. We're going to a restaurant. We're going to a buffet at the Pfister, a Fancy Boy Hotel in Milwaukee. Megan, for you, this would be kind of like going to the Claremont in Berkeley, for if that makes sense. So really looking forward to that. Looking forward to the oysters this year, but for because there's a raw bar there. But for traditional fare, also a big stuffing guy. Usually go ham over turkey. And if I make something, I usually make a sweet potato casserole.
Nice.
Cut that down pretty well.
Ooh, we have a corn casserole too, like a cornbread casserole. So
that
good.
Sounds good.
So like cornbread
send me photos of that. I'm intrigued.
Oh yeah.
The more you know, folks, the more you learn. And asking what are the tips and tricks if you're tired of the way your family's doing it, ask another family. Move in with another family. Always thought about on top of
we do a very traditional like Thanksgiving because we save like we do a Mexican Christmas basically. So
very cool. I was going to ask if there was that kind of well, that sounds good. We're going to have to revisit that for a Christmas episode. That's very
yes.
Very nice. Okay, well, as alluded to, we're doing kind of a different recommendation because again, food, and I'm going to come out flat out and say this is by far my favorite food movie. So I don't really have another like a themed movie I can recommend. I will give a quick shout out to the movie Cure because that's a fun 90s thriller, and Hijo Yakosha, who is the guy who played the man in the white suit, the gangster, is the lead detective in that movie. We'll probably talk about this movie more in depth at one point, but that's kind of a light recommendation. But what we're actually going to do is recommend a restaurant. So, Megan, go ahead.
Sure. So I actually have a light recommendation for the movie too.
Let's hear it too.
And I just think it's funny because this is me and Seth's juxtaposition like of movies perfectly, because my recommendation is Ratatouille, because that movie is a perfect film movie or food movie, excuse me, that literally always makes me hungry. I think like that was the criteria I was going in with. So watch Ratatouille. It's like such a cozy movie too. So
that is cozy.
Always makes me hungry, always makes me want like bread and cheese, basically.
I cannot remember the name of it, but like, do you know the story about like Pixar employees are banned from a restaurant in Emeryville because they did release a rat into a restaurant?
Oh my God.
To see what would happen. Like that's a real thing. Maybe it's not all Pixar employees, but like I think Brad Bird and a few other people.
That's amazing.
Understandably so. I think that's a pretty extreme thing to do for I think you can, it's also like that. Well, that movie is great. I think what happens when it's found out there's a rat in a restaurant is kind of the same thing that happens in any other movie where there's a critter in the restaurant. I don't really think that.
I know.
I feel like there must be a backstory there of somebody at Pixar had it in for the head chef or something, because that seemed very unnecessary to me. But great movie. Also,
that's so funny.
Recommend it.
They may have just gone down to Oakland and found a restaurant with plenty of rats in it or something. That wouldn't be hard to find, basically. I love Oakland. But we all do. We all do. But so my recommendation will be in the Bay Area for a restaurant that I highly recommend people to go to. And I told it to Seth because I was so passionate about it. I'm like, I love this. First of all, this area. I was trying to pick things that aren't like so known. And for me, my like beach town go-to choice that's near the bay, it's literally 40 minutes away, is Half Moon Bay. It's closer almost than, I think it is closer for me than Santa Cruz. So like really, really nice drive. Yeah, I think it is. It's like literally 45 minutes away from me. And it's so beautiful. It's a very small beach town, but there's a restaurant literally right on the water called Sam's Chowder House. New England clam chowder. Oh, Seth knows it. I forgot if you knew it or not, Seth.
I went there on your recommendation. It was fantastic.
Oh, I'm so glad, Seth. Well, we've been going like fairly often. If we're in Half Moon Bay, we'll likely go there. And we were able to go recently. Their clam chowder is maybe top 3 for me. It might literally be number 1. I think it's so good. New England clam chowder. It's not floury. It actually has like a it's quite light, and it reminds me of like a chicken soup vibe, if that sounds like appetizing to you. It's so good. You're literally right on the water. And then the thing that I like about that town and that area is you can go to a very ritzy, they have a Ritz-Carlton there, for instance, but like Sam's is so chill, and like the food is so good, fairly reasonably priced, and just that laid backness is my jam totally. So I love it for that reason, and you're going to get really good food. So I forgot that Seth went there.
Yeah, that was, I've only been to Half Moon Bay once, and we went there. It was just like I'm leaving the area. Where's some of the shit I've never done before? And Half Moon Bay quickly came up, and I did get the chowder. Absolutely agree, it was fantastic. I'll also give a shout out to the key lime pie there. So
okay, good. Yeah,
remember enjoying that. So to try and be slightly less hyper specific, I'm gonna recommend a restaurant in Milwaukee. So for our fans who are in the Bay Area, Milwaukee, or who are traveling, we got you covered. And actually backing up real quick, we're apparently trending in Estonia. So I want to thank our Estonian fans.
Seth, I saw that.
Yeah, so I'm hoping this isn't just Americans with a VPN, but we're actually doing well there. So thank you, Estonians. We see you, we feel seen. We're very appreciative. Give us your favorite restaurants, and I'm serious.
Yes.
We have our email link there, and food, absolutely. But I'll pull back the curtain a little bit and say this has been an odd week for me and my wife, because our apartment was flooded last Saturday. It'll be a week ago tomorrow, and like completely flooded to the point where we had to move, but thankfully into the same building. But we were having such a perfect Saturday at our favorite restaurant, and we literally having a conversation of realizing, like, I think this is our favorite restaurant in town, and it's called The Vet. And it's lovely. It's great. There is also a butcher counter there and some other fun like olive oil and stuff you can take home, but a little bit of a fancier restaurant. I usually get steak tartare there as an appetizer. I had a Cubano sandwich. And had a great roast beef sandwich as well. Like we're having a great time, and then we get the call that our apartment was flooded.
Oh
But we
no.
had literally just had the conversation of I think this is it. So if you're in the Milwaukee area, check out the vet. I'm kind of doing this like Pokemon with the menu. I gotta catch them all and try everything on that menu because I have not gone
Ooh,
wrong so far. It's
good.
one of those places that has like even just like under their sandwiches, enough different options. It's like, are you gonna do all these well? Like, is the banh mi and the fried chicken sandwich gonna be
Mm,
good? And the roast beef, like these are different cultures that are good. So far, yes. So far, everything's great. So
wow, that's
yeah.
cool.
But I mean,
Nice.
they're a butcher as well, so the meat's very good. The
I
meat is
see.
very fresh. Yeah.
The trade-off had to happen, Seth.
Right.
You had to go to the restaurant and your apartment just
I
had to get
know, right?
flooded.
Like I guess every time I go back there, some like what's gonna happen next? And told me she's actually a little bit afraid to go back. I was like, I
Oh
understand.
no. Yeah,
Like this feels like summoning something at this point, but I'm gonna go back, so I'm gonna find out.
right. It
So
might be too good to be
yeah.
true, that restaurant.
You can't consume food this delicate, delectable,
That's awesome.
got repercussions.
Hmm.
Well, I think
Nice.
that's going to do it for us, folks. Oh, actually, sorry, one last quick thing about this
Hmm.
movie. A secondary character in this is Gun, who's the kind of sidekick for Goro, and he's played by
Hmm.
Ken Watanabe, who might be recognized by American moviegoers because he's in a few Christopher Nolan movies. He's in
Oh.
Inception. He's the guy who hires them in that. He's in
Hmm.
I think he's in Batman Begins as well. So he's had a pretty successful worldwide film career. So there might
Hmm.
be, more folks like that you recognize from Japanese cinema, from world cinema. So
Right.
that's kind of fun to see.
Nice. He was great.
Cool.
Literally
He was
all of
great.
them are
Yeah.
great. So it was really fun.
I'm so
What a
glad you
fun
liked it,
watch.
Megan.
I
Every
really
time I
did.
suggest a movie you haven't seen, I'm worried this is going to be the movie that ends the podcast. It's going to be a bridge too far. It has not happened yet. It's not like I'm trying to do this, but
No, Seth.
thank you.
You're expanding my genres. You really are.
Well, thank you. Likewise. Well,
Hmm.
folks, we're thankful for each and every one of you. Tell us who
Absolutely.
you're thankful for, and
Mhm.
thank you for listening.
Yeah, keep the food conversations going. If you can, we love
I would
them.
love to be
So,
tagged. Tag our film, not just like any bowls of ramen in particular, but any food
oh
like that'd be
yes,
great.
yeah. Please, Bay Area people, like more ramen suggestions. Anything, I'll take
Yes.
literally anything. So just
Milwaukee people,
send them
tell
my
me where
way.
I can get ramen here. I'll go to
Yeah,
Chicago for it. I'll go to Minneapolis for it. I'll travel.
there you
Where is it?
go. I bet you'll find it, Seth,
Yes,
in Milwaukee. There's got to be
I hope
one.
so.
But take care, folks. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody, and just enjoy your families and the food, the number one thing.
Number one thing. Take care.
Mhm.